Hello and welcome to a new story. This is another story that I've started writing years ago. It's called Viral Desire. Um, it's not meant to be a nice family-friendly kind of story. It's more something in the style, I guess, of Resident Evil, The Walking Dead, kind of like that. Those kind of movie series and games. So basically, survival horror, and yeah, just keep that in mind in case you actually want to watch it. Want to read it on my website as well in the library. So let's just dive straight into it, I guess, with that warning out of the way, and I hope you enjoy. Viral Desire, Part 0, Day 0. Hello, Nick. You hear you from Meryl? Yes, Miss Collins. Is he ready yet? Hang on, I'll ask her. Why don't you come inside in the meantime? Nick smiles and nods at Mrs. Collins as he enters the hallway, whilst he closes the door behind him. It's pleasantly cool inside the house. Now that summer has well and truly arrived, shade is becoming a precious and most welcome commodity. The hallway itself is much like the outside of the house, simple in its looks, with large white surfaces and a few decorations. Miss Collins, a still attractive-looking woman despite being well into her 40s, excuses herself and descends the stairs to the second floor to tell Meryl that he has arrived. Nick cannot help but glance over at the only major decoration in the hallway. It's a large, wood-framed mirror on the wall, which he uses to check his appearance. Before leaving home, he looked fine, but he sure doesn't want to have Meryl tease him the rest of the day because of a rogue strand of hair or such a silly thing. His thoughts are suddenly interrupted by a young woman's voice exclaiming his name. Nick, there you are! Before he has time to turn towards the stairs and focus on the owner of the voice, he hears quick footsteps on the stairs before slender arms embrace his body. Why, hello there, he smiles at Meryl, who is beaming at him. It still makes him feel very happy to see her like this, as he remembers the shy girl of about a year ago who couldn't look other people in the eyes and rarely talked with other people. Gently holding her by the shoulders, Nick pushes Meryl away from him so that he can take a look at her. She's wearing a white summer dress, not too short, or a mother would complain, and stylish but not too revealing. Her medium-length, dark hair loosely frames her face. He nods approvingly. You ready to leave? He asks her. You bet I am. I've wanted to watch that movie for weeks now. I hope the others are in time too. Smiling again, Nick assures her that it will be fine, and that else they will watch the movie without the others. Looking relieved, Meryl nods. Now, don't stay too long, Meryl. Don't forget you have school tomorrow, Mrs. Collins says as she makes her way down the stairs. An amused smile plays around her lips. Of course not, Mother. You know that Nick will never let it happen to me, Meryl replies, smiling while managing to sound like she's pouting. They soon arrive safely at the cinema, where Nick parks his car. Technically it's his father's car, but who is willing to lend this car for the occasion? To Meryl's relief, they are well on time. As she scans the crowd to find her friends while they make their way towards the entrance, it doesn't take long before they find their friends waiting just inside the building. Sarah is the first to spot the two of them, and waves back as he nudges Tom and Jake, who are seemingly engrossed in a lively discussion. By the time Nick and Meryl reach the three friends, Tom and Jake have noticed them too and greet them with their usual enthusiasm. Hello, Lady Meryl. I'm delighted to see that you could make it, Tom says, while flourishing his imaginary hat. Well, thank you, Tom. I'm delighted to see that you guys made it as well, Meryl responds, responding to Tom's flourish with a curtsy, as Jake tips an imaginary hat and nods at her. Milady, he says, which sends Meryl into a fit of giggling. So, Sarah, do you reckon these two little boys are all prepared to watch this movie? I hope they didn't miss their nap this afternoon, Nick addresses Sarah. Sarah grins broadly. No problems. They're as prepared as they will ever be, she assures him. Shall we go and head in then? Tom asks. It won't be long before the movie starts. The others agree, and together they walk further into the cinema. First they pick something to drink and snack on during the movie, then walk on the plush red carpet to their seats. After having their tickets verified at the door, Jake dashes up the stairs, which run up alongside the rows of seats, to arrive first at the row where the 5 of them will be seated. Looking back at the others who are making their way up the stairs significantly less speedy, his smug grin turns into a bit of a pout when his apparent victory doesn't get acknowledged. Sarah and Meryl are busy talking to each other, and apparently Tom and Nick as well. The seats 11 through 15 are ours on this row, Tom says. No fighting about who is going to sit where now, children, Sarah says, with the same serious expression on her face. That includes you, Jake, she says, as he ruffles his short hair. Why you? Jake starts, then lurches towards her and tickles her sides until she bats him away and tries to regain her breath. Hush, children, and take your seats, Nick says, with a serious note in his voice. As the others look up at the sudden change in his voice and notice his broad grin, the impression of them looking up at their dad is so strong that they all end up choking on laughter before they shuffle down the road towards the seats. Fits of giggling persist until the very beginning of the movie. Some elbowing and muffled giggling later, all is quiet, and the movie's intro starts in earnest. Two hours later, they're making their way out of the cinema. Outside, the sun is already lowering in the sky, giving everything a warm golden glow. A slight breeze is picking up, making it very pleasant to hang around outside for a while. As they do so, they discuss the movie which they just watched. They all agree that for a fantasy-style movie it wasn't bad at all, even if it was really cliché at some points. Was it what you expected of it, Meryl? Sarah asks. Meryl thinks for a while before responding. Yeah, I think it was. I knew they wouldn't follow the book to the letter, but they did a good job of converting it, I suppose. Oh? Sarah looks questioningly at Meryl. Wasn't it you who convinced us all that we absolutely had to go see this movie because it was going to be the best movie ever? What happened to that? Meryl ever so slightly blushes while she fidgets with her dress. I don't think it was a bad movie. I really liked it. It's just that you're as critical as ever, one of your many charms, Jake interjects. Are you okay with Jake stealing away your girlfriend, Nick? Tom asked, with a big grin on his face. Nick gently punches Tom against his shoulder, while pretending to glare threateningly at Jake. If the boys are quite done playing, I would like to go home, Sarah says. I promised my father I would help him with one of his projects. Meryl quickly looks at her watch before saying, I should be going home soon if I want to arrive in time for dinner. Nick nods. Alright, we'll see each other at school tomorrow then. Sarah, make sure you keep the boys safe. Yes, sir, Sarah says as she salutes at him. Very cute. Now take care. Nick smiles in amused fashion before he and Meryl start making their way towards the parking lot. Before they've taken more than a dozen steps, a sudden scream stops them in their tracks, and they turn around towards the direction of the scream. Sarah and the others also heard it, and are looking at a woman who stands some distance away, clutching at her handbag. She's looking at a nearby man, as though she's looking at a dangerous viper which is ready to strike. In just that short glance, Nick notices the predatory stance of the man, and can imagine that dangerous gleam in his eyes akin to that of a predator ready to take down a fat prey animal. Then a man steps forward towards the woman, while seemingly unaware of anything else in his environment. The woman screams again and turns in order to run away, but the heels she's wearing cause her to trip and fall. Within seconds, the man is on top of her, his hands going every which way over her body as her screams reach a piercing crescendo. It is that first piercing scream which seems to draw the onlookers out of the state of frozen disbelief and pushes them into action. Within moments, Nick, Sarah, Jake, Tom, and various other people have come to the woman's aid and pulled the man off her. while Nick and Tom, together with a few other strong men, hold down a man who keeps fighting back as though possessed. Sarah, Jake, and others help the poor woman up into a sitting position and try to comfort her. The woman clutches at her blouse, which has been torn half open by the violence, to reveal a white lace bra and the creamy expanse of bosom. Jake swallows and tries to look away, as Sarah and another woman help put her clothes back into something more decent, before someone rushes over with a blanket, which they fetch from somewhere, and she is wrapped into it. She draws the blanket tightly around her, as sobs course through her body. Sarah allows the woman to rest against her, until she begins to calm down. Despite the calming words by her and others, she seems to have gone into shock. Will she be okay? Jake asks, feeling rather helpless in his situation. Sarah looks down at the adult woman, quite a few years older than she is, and notices that despite the red puffy eyes and runny nose, she's really quite pretty. It was quite clear what the man's intentions were. Part of her mind wonders whether she would be in the same state if such a thing had happened to her. Pushing that uncomfortable thought away, she tries to sound self-assured, and then she responds that the woman will be fine. She just got a big shock, that's all. With some rest, she'll be fine. More importantly, how's that guy doing? Sarah asks, as she looks over at where the other group is alternating between people to hold down the attacker. They're holding him down, but I'm not sure what's wrong with the guy. I hope the police come soon, Jake responds, still feeling uncertain about the situation. I heard someone say that he escaped from a mental hospital. Wouldn't surprise me. I've never seen anyone be so savage and uncontrolled, a woman sitting near Sarah on the ground says. Sarah nods, feeling numb as the reality of the situation still seems to elude her. So far she is quite content with leaving this feeling persist that everything right now is a mere dream or a nightmare. Nick stretches his back and shoulders. Despite being in a good physical condition, holding down that attacker with help of a few others was a huge struggle. He never knew that a single man could put up such a fight. When he grabbed the man's shoulder to pull him off the poor woman, it felt like trying to pull a mass of concrete using his bare hands. Concrete that had been poured over with gasoline and lit on fire, that is. The man's skin had felt feverish to the touch, almost burning. Even after that, the man didn't relent, but kept fighting like a trapped tiger. Nick gingerly touches a few bruises on his torso where the man's punches had made contact. He'd be paying for his heroic or foolish actions tomorrow, and probably for a few days after that. Focusing on the struggling man in front of him on the ground, he can tell that the attacker is finally tiring though. The mad glint remains in his eyes. The 6 men holding him down, one at each limb, 2 for his torso, are having a markedly easier time than they had moments before. Walking over to one of the other men who will first manhandle the attacker onto the ground, he raises his hand in a tired greeting gesture, which the other, an older man in his early 40s, but still with the build of someone who likes to exercise, responds to with a friendly nod. I assume that the police has been notified already? Nick asks, to which the other nods in confirmation. Right away when it started happening, some people with cell phones all asked for police assistance. It shouldn't be long now, the man answers, before extending his hand. The name is John Barrick. Nick Himley, Nick responds, as he returns the man's strong handshake. Looking around, he spots Tom nearby and motions him over. Tom, too, looks worn after the early experience. Tom meets John. John, this is Tom. Nick introduces the two to each other. If you'll excuse me, I have to see how my girlfriend is doing now, Tom. I'll talk to you later, okay? Tom nods before turning towards John. Sharing experiences after such a traumatic event is a good thing, Nick thinks to himself as he scours the crowd for a sign of Meryl. After a moment of panic, when he can't see her, and his imagination conjures up her getting kidnapped by another one of those crazy men, he finally spots the black hair above the white dress. Meryl is standing off to the side, clear of the crowd and looking extremely lost. Nick feels his heart breaking as he looks at her face. Of all the things he would have wanted to save her from witnessing. Not time to think about it for now. As Meryl spots him coming towards her, it is as though she's a shipwrecked sailor who finally spots land after drifting on the ocean for days. Walking somewhat uncertainly on her sandals, she extends her arms towards him when he is close. Closing his arms around her body in an embrace, she embraces him back so strongly that he imagines he can feel his ribs crack. With a grimace, he ignores the pain from the bruises. Softly stroking Meryl's hair, she buries her face into his chest and starts crying uncontrollably. Nick doesn't say anything, as he continues to stroke her soft hair and looks across the crowd to where Sarah and Jake are still sitting with the woman who was attacked. In the distance, he can hear police sirens rapidly coming closer. He finds himself wondering how much time has truly passed since that first scream. Sarah tries to focus on the woman's condition just in case he needs more help or gets a panic attack. Of the others who were assisted earlier, some have left by now. With the situation relatively under control, she doesn't blame them. If she hadn't taken charge of this woman, she might have left already as well. Looking over at Jake, she noticed him staring off into the distance. "Are you okay, Jake? You seem a bit out of it," she asked him, trying to get the worry out of her voice. At first, Jake doesn't respond. Then he suddenly seems to snap out of it and looks at her. What? Oh, I'm just fine, you know? Jake says, to which Sarah nods sympathetically. "Maybe you could go over to where Tom is. You guys might want to catch up on things," Sarah suggests, to which Jake nods. As he gets up and walks over to where Tom is talking with a man, Sarah follows him for a moment until her gaze falls upon the still struggling figure of the attacker. She decides that some things simply cannot be understood. The woman is still sobbing a little bit as he leans against Sarah's chest, though she seems to be calming down now. As Sarah brushes the hair out of her face again, the woman pushes her head against Sarah's hand. Momentarily surprised at this sudden response from someone who until a moment ago had been completely passive, Sarah responds by stroking the side of the woman's face with the back of her fingers and telling her that she is safe now. After a few moments, the woman sighs deeply, to then stop sobbing. As the last tears find their way down her face onto the blanket, her breathing has slowed down to a slow, regular tempo. Sarah smiles at the others who are still gathered around. They all share a few big sighs of relief, followed by more when they hear police sirens approaching in the distance. "Does anyone have something to drink? I think she may be thirsty now," Sarah asks the others. One of the women fumbles for a moment in the bag and extracts a carton of fruit juice. After putting the attached straw into the carton, she hands it to Sarah, who thanks her. The woman leaning against Sarah still has her eyes closed, and her breathing is so shallow that it almost seems like she is asleep. "Would you like something to drink?" Sarah asked her, gently nudging her shoulder. Upon hearing her voice, the woman's eyes pop open, and she slowly focuses on the carton held in front of her. Yes, I would like to drink something," she croaks, before extending a well-manicured hand out from underneath the blanket towards the carton, before giving up and trying to grasp it due to her hand shaking too badly. Sarah moves the carton straw to within reach of her mouth, as her wits start greedily sucking on it. "Slowly now, or you will choke," the woman who handed Sarah the carton earlier warns. Drinking more slowly, it doesn't take long before the woman has emptied the carton and sinks back against Sarah with a relieved sigh. Only then does she seem to become aware of her situation. What happened? That man, she stumbles over her words. "You're all safe now. That horrible man has been dealt with. The police are on the way. Everything is fine now," the woman who gave the drink carton says. "My name is Caitlin, by the way. What is yours?" I'm Mary, the woman says, still shaky. Mary Eslin. Hello, Mary, Sarah says. My name is Sarah. Just take it easy right now. Everything is alright. I hope I'm not too heavy. How long was I out? Mary asked, upon which Sarah smiles. No, not heavy at all. It's only been a few minutes. Look, there's the police already. After the police arrives, the usual procedure starts. Secure the suspect, keep the crowds at bay, ensure the victims are safe and out of danger. Shortly after the arrival of the police, an ambulance also arrives, with the paramedics taking care of Mary. As Mary is helped up on her feet, Sarah supports her together with Kathleen. Thanks so much, both of you, and everyone else. I don't know what would... Mary swallows heavily. It's alright, Mary. You just take care of yourself, okay? Kathleen says. Take care now, Sarah says, and gives her a gentle hug before two paramedics take her to the back of the ambulance. Mary looks back once more, and Kathleen and Sarah wave at her while smiling. Then it's suddenly all over. Looking at the police cars, except for one, and the ambulance leaving with two police officers remaining to gather evidence, Sarah turns toward Kathleen, who looks back at her. Kathleen is also a few years older than Sarah, maybe late 30s. She has a very nice open face and warm smile, though. Thank you for everything, Kathleen. If you and the others hadn't been there, I'm not sure I could have managed it, Sarah says, her voice trembling with sudden emotion. You did just fine, Sarah. I saw you acted right at the beginning. You were absolutely wonderful. If I ever get into trouble, I would want you to be there. That's for sure, Kathleen says, smiling warmly at her. Suddenly, Sarah feels hot tears in the corners of her eyes. Thank you, she managed to say, before the older woman embraces her and Sarah lets out all of the shock and pain of the past event. And that was part 0 of day 0. This story has an interesting kind of concept of chapters, what I remember. And there are more parts. So there will be more coming up. I really hope you like this this first part and that you will stick around for more. I will attempt to I will make every possible attempt to do regular readings of this stories, as well of the others where I'm writing more chapters for at this moment. And for the rest, I really hope you enjoyed this this video. If you liked it, just subscribe, become a patron, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next one, and take care.